There are some stories in the Philippines that parents tell their children to keep them from wandering outside after dark. Stories about spirits. Stories about creatures hidden deep within the forests. Stories meant to scare. But there is one story that has survived across generations for a different reason. It wasn't told to children. It was told to mothers, especially those expecting a child. Because if you asked enough grandmothers in the provinces, many of them would quietly repeat the same warning. Never sleep with your windows open while pregnant. And if you hear scratching on the roof after midnight, don't look outside, because according to legend, the Manananggal might be looking back. The account you're about to hear was shared by a woman from Pampanga. Whether you believe it is entirely up to you, but she swore until the day she died that it happened exactly as she described. It was 1987. Maria was 26 years old and 7 months pregnant with her first child. She lived with her husband, Arturo, in a small farming community surrounded by rice fields and banana trees. Life was simple. Arturo worked long days in the fields. Maria stayed home. Their house sat near the edge of the village, where the dirt roads became narrow paths disappearing into the countryside. The older residents often warned against venturing too far after sunset. Maria never paid much attention. She had grown up hearing stories about aswang, capre, and other creatures. Ghost stories. Nothing more. At least, that's what she believed, until the scratching began. The first night, she barely noticed it. A faint sound coming from above, like branches scraping against the roof. The winds had been strong that evening. She assumed that was the cause. The second night, the scratching returned. Long, slow, deliberate, as though something was dragging its nails across the galvanized steel. She nudged Arturo awake. "Do you hear that?" He listened. The sound stopped. After several moments of silence, he sighed. Probably a cat. Maria wanted to believe him. She eventually fell back asleep. The third night, the scratching came again, only this time, it moved across the roof, above the bedroom, then directly above her side of the bed. Maria sat frozen beneath her. Blanket scratch, 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 then silence. A few seconds later, she heard something else, a soft tapping against the window. 3 taps, then nothing. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she turned her head toward the curtains. The tapping came again. 3 deliberate knocks. Arturo remained asleep beside her. Maria considered waking him, instead, against every instinct screaming at her not to. She pulled back the curtain. Outside, illuminated by moonlight, was a woman's face, pale, expressionless, hanging upside down. Maria screamed. The face vanished instantly. Arturo jolted awake. He rushed outside carrying a bolo knife. He searched around the house. Nothing. No footprints. No intruder. Nothing. The next morning, Maria told her mother-in-law what she had seen. The elderly woman became unusually quiet. Then she asked a single question. "Have you been sleeping near an open window?" Maria nodded. Without another word, the old woman stood and began gathering garlic. She instructed Arturo to place salt along every windowsill and doorway. She hung bundles of herbs throughout the house. Then she gave Maria a warning. "If you hear it again, do not look." Maria wanted to protest, to argue. Instead, she remained silent, because for the first time, she noticed genuine fear in the old woman's eyes. The following nights passed peacefully. Maria began convincing herself that stress had caused the encounter. Perhaps the pregnancy was affecting her imagination. Then Arturo left for several days to assist relatives, harvesting crops in a neighboring town. Maria stayed behind with her mother-in-law. On the second evening after Arturo's departure, the electricity failed. Darkness swallowed the village. Candles flickered within nearby homes. Outside, insects chirped among the fields. Maria couldn't sleep. She sat near the window listening to the distant barking of dogs. Then suddenly, every dog in the village fell silent. The stillness felt unnatural, oppressive. A few moments later, she heard it, scratch, 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 across the roof. Maria froze. The sound traveled overhead, then stopped. She squeezed her eyes shut. The scratching resumed. This time, directly above her, something scraped against the metal roofing, slowly, patiently, as though searching. Maria remembered her mother-in-law's warning. "Do not look." Then came the tapping. 3 soft knocks against the window. Tears filled Maria's eyes. The tapping continued, then a voice, soft, familiar. "Maria." It sounded like Arturo. She nearly rose from bed. "Maria, open the window." The voice was unmistakable, her husband. Yet something deep inside told her otherwise. Arturo wasn't supposed to return until morning. The voice became more urgent. "Please, open the window." Maria remained still, outside. The voice stopped. Then the scratching resumed. Violent. Frantic. Something dragged itself across the roof above her head. The metal groaned beneath its weight. Maria covered her ears. Then she heard wings. Massive wings beating against the night air. The sound grew distant, then vanished. She remained awake until sunrise. The next morning, villagers gathered outside Maria's home. Several chickens had been slaughtered during the night. Drained of blood, one elderly neighbor crossed herself repeatedly. Another refused to speak. Arturo returned later that afternoon. When Maria described everything that had happened, he said nothing. Instead, he walked outside. Several minutes later, he returned holding something wrapped in cloth. Inside were long strands of black hair, caught on sharp edges of the roof. Maria stared at them in silence. She had no explanation. Neither did Arturo. Weeks passed. Maria gave birth to a healthy baby girl. The disturbances stopped. Life slowly returned to normal. Years later, when her daughter became pregnant herself, Maria visited her. She helped prepare the nursery, hung decorations, folded tiny clothes. Then before leaving, she placed garlic near the windows. Her daughter laughed. "Do you still believe those stories?" Maria looked toward the darkening sky outside, then quietly replied, "I don't know what I believe, but I know what I saw." The legend of the Manananggal. The Manananggal is among the most feared creatures in Filipino folklore. Descriptions vary depending on the region, but certain details remain remarkably consistent. By day, it appears human, often described as an ordinary woman living unnoticed among her community. At night, it transforms. Separating at the waist, its upper body sprouts enormous bat-like wings. Entrails hang beneath it as it takes flight. According to tradition, the Manananggal preys upon sleeping victims. Pregnant women are said to be especially vulnerable. Legends claim it uses an elongated tongue to feed upon unborn children. Communities developed countless methods to protect themselves: garlic, salt, ash vinegar. Some stories insist that if the creature's lower half is discovered while it hunts, covering it with salt prevents it from reuniting before dawn. Exposed to sunlight, the Manananggal perishes. Whether these traditions originated from genuine belief, cautionary tales, or attempts to explain tragedy, no one can say for certain. What remains undeniable is how widespread these stories became. Across islands, across generations, across families separated by hundreds of miles, people continued sharing remarkably similar accounts. Even today. Closing. Perhaps Maria experienced sleep paralysis. Perhaps fear shaped ordinary events into something extraordinary. Or perhaps, on a quiet night in Pampanga, something circled above a small farmhouse. Something that tapped softly against a bedroom window, calling in a familiar voice, waiting for someone to let it in. Whether you believe in the Manananggal or not, many Filipino households continue practicing old traditions, passed down by parents and grandparents. Garlic above the doorway, salt near the windows, warnings whispered to expectant mothers, because legends endure for a reason. And sometimes, the most frightening stories aren't the ones found in books. They're the ones told around dinner tables, by people who look you in the eye and say, "I know what I saw." If you grew up hearing stories like this from your parents or grandparents, share them below, because the next Whispers from the Philippines might tell your story.